All right, hi everyone. We will get started on our meeting. I am always off camera. I'm Jamie Richardson. I will be our Sergeant in Arms today. So I would formally like to welcome everyone to our August 24th meeting of Queen City Toastmasters. I now officially call the meeting to order. Today's theme actually holds a little bit of meaning for me as well. I have 3 children that are all going back to school tomorrow. And our eldest is 11 years old, and she has been using the time off over the summer to cook waffles for us every Sunday. And so it just so happens that August 24th in 1869 is also the date when the waffle iron was invented. So there you go, full circle. Though, to be fair, at the end of the summer, it's true that there's such a thing as too many waffles. So we're looking forward to that break as well. With that, I'd like to welcome our president, David Jones, to preside over the meeting.
Okay, I think I'm on the right view. First, I'd like to say I'm a little off today. I got my second Moderna shot yesterday, and today was a really rough day. Fortunately, the pharmacist says take Advil, and all my friends said take Advil, and I forgot to take Advil. And then Natalie today said take some Advil, and I took it, and now I feel 100% better. So all day I was miserable for not taking Advil. So if you do it, you can do it. First, I'd like to introduce a guest in person, which is Khalib, right? Khalib, let me come out there. Caleb.
And one of the last things I'll mention was go check out Toastmaster. Brother had did it. I think that was a good idea.
And Toastmaster, so welcome to us. And then I'd like to also introduce our guest, Krista. She is our area director. So hello, Krista.
Hello, good afternoon or good evening, Toastmasters. I'm glad to be with you. As David mentioned, I'm Krista Newkirk, the area director for 23. And just I'm glad to visit and sit in on your meeting. I could give some updates and things around the area and the division near the end of the meeting.
Perfect. Thanks for joining us. And I'm just going to go ahead and turn the meeting over to Vanessa, who is our Toastmaster tonight, and she can introduce our Zoom guests and talk to them. So please welcome Vanessa Waller.
Thanks, David. Yes, it looks like we have a few guests joining us on Zoom. Let's see, Andrea, Tamika, is that right? And Justin. Hi everyone. So welcome to Queen City Toastmasters. Do one of you want to start off and just say your name and kind of how you found out about us and your interest in Toastmasters?
Hi, yes, my name is Tamika, and I'm a previous member of Toastmasters, and my job and my life just redirected me back to Toastmasters so I can be more comfortable with presenting in smaller, large groups. And definitely it has expanded upon the 2 workbooks that we had in the beginning. They have this whole My Pathways now, which is like awesome. So I'm definitely happy to be back, and I know I'll get a lot out of it this time, and I'm just happy to be here along with the group.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us, Tamika. Great to meet you. And I do like your pineapple background, very creative. My favorite color, as you can tell. And we also have Andrea. Do you want to say hi as well?
Hi, I'm Andrea, the chocolate butterfly. I visited in person last week, but I had a lot to do this week, so I'm online this week. And I thank God that you guys have that option. So I came back, and obviously I enjoyed myself last week, and I just want to continue to grow in my public speaking and in my knowledge of Toastmaster.
Wonderful. Well, I think you came to a good spot, so glad to have you. And finally, we have Justin. Welcome, Justin. I think I see your professional photo shoot photo in your Zoom. So nice to see your smiling face.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you for having me. Yes, ma'am. So I'm just starting out my career. I've been in my position for about a year or so, but I'm starting to move up the ladder a little bit. And I just want to make sure that I'm up to speed with all of my public speaking. Obviously, there's a lot of room for improvement. So just wanted to pop in, see what it's all about. Hopefully, I'll be able to join you guys in person in the next few weeks, but just want to get some feelers to begin with. And I really appreciate you guys having me.
Awesome, great. Well, thanks everyone. Great to have you all here. And David, do you want me to go ahead and kick things off, or did you have any other announcements? Okay, cool, sounds good. Well, so welcome everyone to Queen City Toastmasters. And because Charlotte schools are due to return this week, I think that's tomorrow, if I'm remembering correctly, and I don't have kids, but I've heard from coworkers that it is kind of the back to school rush right now. I thought a good theme would be back to school, and at least I think all of us have been students before. We know what that feeling is like when you're kind of sad to see summer drawing to a close. Maybe you are frantically catching up on your summer reading list. I know that's what I was doing the week before school started. I was trying to stop procrastinating on my summer reading and fitting in maybe a few other fun things before school starts again. And to kick us off with our theme, I'm just going to open it up for anyone who would like to share their thoughts. But does anyone have any really fun memories from their summer before school started? Maybe you're a student right now, or maybe your kids have been doing something fun over the summer. And this is open to members and guests if anyone wants to raise their hand and share a few thoughts to get us in the spirit of the theme. And I may have to rely on you, David, if there's someone in person who I can't see as well, but I'll keep an eye open.
Yeah. Jamie with the Waffle Kids, he has a thought.
Yeah, so, well, I'm actually, my best summers I had were going back junior and senior in high school. Now, the year rail passed, also, we've got money. So at that point,
Hey, David. I'm sorry, I had trouble hearing. I don't know if it's my Wi-Fi or just the connection in the room, but I know, is Jamie our sergeant
hear
at
any of
arms
it, or-
today who had kids?
He is, yes. Did you hear
Awesome,
anything?
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I can hear you now. I don't know why I had trouble hearing. Yes, I think Krista just mentioned we can hear from the computer, but not when the mic was passed to someone. So maybe it's just a connection with the mic issue there.
You are correct. I have the wrong one.
There we go. Okay, actually now it's a lot louder, so I think that's a good
Okay.
sign.
Okay.
Thanks, David, for comparing.
Well, we have time. Let me give it back to Jamie. You want to share? Nobody heard a word you said.
Sorry, Jamie.
good the next time around.
It's gonna be better this time.
All right. Yes. So I was saying I'm going to go back to between my junior and senior in high school when I spent the summer before going back to school traveling Europe with two friends. So we had Eurail passes and went all over Western and Eastern Europe. And my anecdote was we were ready to go back to school because at the end of 1 month, we were stuck eating bread and ketchup sandwiches. That's all we had money left for.
Wow, that is
Thanks.
quite the interesting story. I can only imagine what it would be like to taste the bread with just ketchup. I've never tried that, but you're brave for trying it. And that's often what high school is sort of for. High school and college, I feel like it's all about crazy adventures and doing some crazy things that make good stories years later. Would anyone else, either on Zoom or in person, like to share thoughts on happy summer vacation memories or back to school memories?
I'll go. So
Yes,
when I
Andrea.
think of back to school, I always think of the exciting day well, the days leading up to that, where you're going back to school shopping, where you're getting all your notebooks and your backpack and everything had to match. I was matchy. I was a prep. Um, you know, you got your new pair of shoes, your first day of school outfit, and you put all your outfits out and you're like, which one is the best one? And you always regret the one you wear. But anyway, it was always an exciting time. I love school. I still love school, of course, if I'm still here learning. So, but that's what I remember about the first day of school.
Well, thanks. I love that because I can relate. I was always really interested in fashion and it's still sort of a hobby of mine. And so before school would start, I would plan out my first outfit of the school year, and it always had to be just perfect for me to feel confident. And it's sort of when you're putting on your best impression for maybe new students or people haven't seen you all summer and you want to look cool and make a good impression. So I can definitely relate to that. Anyone else before we move into the rest of our meeting? David?
Yes, and I unfortunately forgot to introduce him. Daniel is our newest member at Queen City, and he has a thought. So hold on a second.
Wonderful.
So I remember when I was 10 years old, I went to Turkey with my mother, and we loved it so much then that we actually went there again. And it was like one of the best summer vacations. And all I remember that I never wanted to come back to school. But yeah, that was fun.
Awesome. That is amazing. Tokyo, that is just such a great use of your time on this over the summer. I think most of my vacations were a lot less interesting than that. So I can understand how that's such a great memory. And I have been to Japan only once, but I hope one day to return. So that definitely is putting it top of mind now. When can I travel some more? Hopefully when COVID is in the past, we hope. But that's great. Thanks for sharing, Daniel, and congrats on being a new member. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. And I don't believe we have an inspiration or joke master tonight. Is that correct? Okay, so we'll go ahead and move on to our grammarians report. And our grammarian will be helping us keep track of our grammar and filler words. And that is going to be Toastmaster Natalie. So Natalie, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. Good evening, fellow Toastmasters and guests. It's a pleasure to be here with you this evening and getting ready back to school. Even though I don't have children either, I've seen a lot of my friends and coworkers. It's adorable to see their photos of the kids and their excitement. And I remember being that excited as a kid, and I consider myself an eternal student. I still continue to study and enroll in courses that are areas of passion, such as nutrition or Reiki, which I recently learned. So I'm always looking at what I can study. And I think all of us are probably eternal students as we've gathered here this evening to practice our public speaking skills and connect with one another. That's why for this evening, I've selected the word learning as our word of the night. As your grammarian, I will be listening for filler words, and I will also be listening for the word of the evening, learning. Filler words include your ums and so's, buts, so you knows. So I'll be listening to that and giving a recap at the end of the meeting. And then the word of the evening, learning, is inspired by tonight's theme and a personal passion of mine, because I believe that we are always students and we should always be learning. So please incorporate that into your speech this evening, and I will give a recap towards the end on who incorporated the word of the night. Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. Vanessa, I think your mic is off.
I'm sorry, I forgot. Thanks. That's always something good to check. So just yell at me if I forget. Thank you, Natalie. And our next role of the evening will help us keep track of how long we're speaking for, and that is our timer. So let's welcome Jenny to explain the role of timer.
Thank you, Vanessa, Toastmaster. So this evening I will be doing the timers report, keeping track of everybody's time. for the speeches. So for the actual speeches, there are 2 speeches, David Jones and Parvinder, and they should be 5 to 7 minutes. At minute 5, I'll flash the green light. At minute 6, the yellow light will come on. And then at minute 7, the red light will come on, which will indicate that you need to wrap up your time. For table topics, they should be 1 to 2 minutes. And for those at minute 1, I would flash the green light, 1:30, the yellow light, and at minute 2, again, the red light indicating you should wrap up your time. And then for the general evaluators, those should be 2 to 3 minutes. And then I'll do it again. At minute 2 would be the green light. At 1/2 minutes, you will see the yellow light. And then at minute 3 is the red light. And that is the time. Thank you.
Good job. Thanks.
Thank you, Toastmaster Jenny. Excellent explanation. And now the main event of our Toastmasters meeting tonight. Our 2 speakers will be delivering rehearsed speeches they've worked hard on, so we're excited to hear them. Our first speaker tonight will be also our president, David Jones, and he is giving a speech from his innovative planning pathway entitled My Rules. So let's welcome David Jones.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. Good evening, fellow Toastmasters and all of our guests. It's nice to have a bunch of guests. My speech tonight is about what I find to be humorous, what makes me laugh. And what makes me laugh is all of you and all of you on Zoom, because I'm a people watcher and I like to see what people are up to. See, each one of us has our own set of rules that we live by. They might be our values or our guidelines, they not necessarily the law or what we learned in church or at school or from our parents. It's just how we conduct ourselves in life. And those are the rules we go by. Some of us use turn signals when we drive, some of us don't. It's just a personal preference. But I believe if everybody lived by my rules, it would be a much better place. For instance, whenever I travel, I always check my bag at the airport. When I go, I'll put my keys in there, my sweater, everything goes in the bag. I carry my wallet and my phone, but everything else goes in the bottom of the airplane. And I do this because I get to walk through the airport and watch all of you struggling and fighting and arguing with your carry-on bags, yelling at your spouse, why did you bring so many shoes? And she's like, I don't know. And then you get on the plane and you're trying to stuff it up there and you just can't because the flight attendant's going to tell you to check it anyways. But for $30, you could just check your bag and be so happy. I mean, so many of you are going on a vacation with your significant other and you're going to go to Vegas or the Bahamas and you're going to drop $500 at the casino, but you're not going to spend $30. You'd much rather fight and argue. And my rule is make life easy. Just check your bag for $30. And if you don't, you're going to suffer the consequences because there's hundreds of people always watching you fighting and arguing and running around the airport stressed out and dropping stuff. Now, a few weeks ago, some friends of mine, I call them my tribe of friends. We went camping up in the mountains for 2 nights, and then we went to some waterfalls one day and hung out and played there. And then we went rafting, not rafting, but tubing down a river. Now in Florida, it's different. The rivers in Florida are different because they're deep and there's nothing there. But up here, there's rocks and there's rapids and it's very shallow and you have to pay attention. And that's one of my rules. My rules is pay attention when you're out in Mother Nature. Be observant of your surroundings, but not everybody does that and they suffer the consequences because as you're going down the little river there, there's at this particular place, there's a dam that opens up for the power company. And you're going about 10 to 12 miles an hour, which is kind of fast, but you have to pay attention. You have to be paddling to the left or paddling to the right to get out of the way for the rocks. And there's this one section that there's a lot of rapids and they're very loud, they're and you're going over them. And if you're not careful, you're going to fall and get hurt. And right after the rapids is a little beachy area and you coast over there and there's a little stand where there's food and hot dogs and sodas and everything. And you hang out there and you have fun. And after we're done eating, there's like 6 of us, my friends, and we were all, I will admit it, inebriated. And we're sitting there watching the people come down their tubes, and we're just laughing. They can't hear us because it's so loud, but just the people, because they're not paying attention. They are in Mother Nature and they think they can just willy-nilly go down, and they hit the rocks and they flip over. And it's very funny. I mean, I feel bad saying it's very funny, but it is very funny. And there was one guy, he was coming, and he's actually older than me, which I know it's hard to believe, but he's older than me, and he's floating, and I'm looking at him telling my friends, this guy's gonna wipe out for sure. And he's like just looking around. He had to be inebriated too. He's just looking at the sky, and you can hear the rapids, and he's not paying attention. And sure enough, he's coming down and bam, face first into the rocks. And we all started laughing. I mean, that's what it's like NASCAR. You're waiting for an accident. This guy went face first into the rocks. And it was funny for a few seconds, but I realized that he was struggling. The tube was on top of him. And I've always been one of those guys where I'm the one that goes out and helps somebody. I'm the one that they make eye contact with, and they're like, are you going to help me? For some reason, I'm always that guy. So I'm ready. I'm in the posture to go help him, but he takes the tube, he throws it off of him. He sits back on the rocks, and he's a bloody mess. He's just bleeding. Still kind of funny, but I started feeling bad. And he's sitting there, and you could tell he's dazed because, you know, he's all bloody and he hit the rocks face first. And he's struggling to get up. I mean, he just couldn't because of the current, and he's dazed. So finally I go out there about 50 feet, and I help him up, and I bring him to shore. And as soon as he goes to the bathroom, we start laughing, you know, at the rest of the people coming down, because they're just not paying attention. And that's my rule, is pay attention to what you're doing, be respectful of Mother Nature, and you won't get hurt. But some people don't do it. And that's why I'm saying it's funny to me when people don't follow my rules, because they have consequences. And the same with flying. You know, you don't have my rules of checking your bag, so you suffer the consequence of arguing, fighting with everybody around you, and making a spectacle of yourself, especially people with a lot of kids. Little kids, probably always stressful, fighting, arguing about it. And so each of us has our own rules, and all of us believe our rules are the way they should be, and they're the right ones. And I agree that based on our lives, our rules are our rules. And that's what makes everything funny, is when people don't obey our rules. Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you so much, David. That is definitely a crazy story about someone just paying no attention when they're rafting. And it is a great learning experience sometimes when you make a mistake when you're outdoors and you know not to repeat it again. And I'm fortunate that before school started, I usually did a summer camp where we learned how to stay safe. But I totally can relate that there was always that one kid or one person who was not in their element and just didn't understand what to do when they were in the great outdoors. But glad you are clearly an experienced outdoorsman who knows how to be safe. A good summer tip for sure. All right, our second speaker of the evening is going to give a speech from the Pathways project that is based on implemented feedback. And that would be titled How to Break Out of Overwhelm. What a great topic for Toastmasters. Haven't we all felt overwhelmed at some point? And that will be delivered by Toastmaster Parvinder. So Parvinder, welcome, and thank you for coming up with such an excellent speech topic. And let's give Parvinder a warm Toastmasters welcome.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and honorable guests. So this speech is one of my, is a follow-up speech of a speech that I given, and I got some feedback. I'm implementing that feedback in this speech. And I have a question for you all. Do you get overwhelmed? I see raising hands and nods in the room. And definitely, I also get overwhelmed. I got overwhelmed a few weeks ago. So many of you might remember that I gave my first icebreaker speech. And as I was getting through the speech, I like the feeling of finishing the speech, also achievement at the end of the speech that it's my goal to be a public speaker, and I'm making progress in it. So I felt great after the speech. And as soon as I finished my speech, I signed up for a speech next Tuesday, following Tuesday. Although I want to improve my public speaking skills, I want to give back-to-back speeches. That's what I was thinking. I want to do that. But at the same time, I think I did not give myself enough time, or something was missing. So I was trying to find out, from this experience, as the date of speech was approaching, I was struggling to find a topic or write speech or maybe practice my speech. So I didn't do anything, and I ended up pushing my speech for a few more weeks. As part of this experience, I was learning a few things, and the thing that I was learning was, what I'm going through, and I figured that I'm getting overwhelmed. I'm pushing myself too much. So what is overwhelm? Overwhelm is felt by people who have things to do. Like, I'm just trying to simplify it. When do you feel it? So say yes to multiple things, and you will feel it. What happens when you feel it? So you might feel confused, and it's like, I don't know what to do. What happens if you don't fix it? So it might be a little stressful if you don't work on your overwhelm. It might lead to some anxiety at times, and in worst cases, it can also cause depression in people. What happens if you fix it? So definitely your productivity skyrockets. You are able to do things that you want to do in the world, and also like how to fix it, what to do if you get overwhelmed. So I came up with the idea of 3 P's. The first P of overwhelm is prioritization. So what overwhelm really means? Overwhelm is a disease. It kills people. No, I'm just kidding. It's not a disease. It is not a disease. It's not even stress. It's just a signal from your unconscious mind that something needs to change. And in my case, I think I had to figure out, what I need to change. Although I wanted to prioritize my public speaking, I also had to deprioritize few things, which I do on a usual basis. And it could be, spending a lot of times on internet, or maybe watching TV, or spending a lot of time just cleaning the house. So that was one thing that I need to, that there were like few things that I needed to deprioritize to prioritize my public speaking. So, and if there is anything like any other internal dialogue that you're not good enough for this, or maybe you have lack of knowledge. So those are, I think, not valid scenarios here. It's just that you have to prioritize. So overwhelm goes away as soon as you prioritize. Action is optional, but if you don't take action ever, that overwhelm will come back again. So the first step in getting rid of overwhelm is prioritization. Second step, what I did is presence. So the psychological structure of overwhelm is, it happens because when we have our internal representation of presence stretched enough. So in my case, what I was doing, I wanted to do a lot of things in one go. I wanted to choose a topic, maybe write the outline of my speech, and also practice a speech. And it's good if I was able to do it, but because I'm new to public speaking, so I was definitely getting overwhelmed by all these things, like putting a lot of structure, and also putting pressure on myself that I have to finish it in one go. So that was definitely not working out. And what I found is there was also a voice in my head that if I don't do it this way, I'm gonna fail. I was still stuck in the same Parvinder who is still struggling with public speaking. So, and that was, I think, just a voice in my head. And what I did for that, like, there might be a lot of techniques for being present. But what I did is I just listened to it, and I was like, okay, I'm not going to pay attention. I'm not going to do anything, and let's find out what happens. So I did not work on my speech for a day or two, and I was like, okay, I think I'm okay. Although I want to work on it, but I should also be listening to myself, loving myself more. So that was one step, being present with myself. That really helped me. And the third step is play. So definitely I was putting a lot of structure, trying to put a lot of structure to my public speaking speech. And what happens is the play and the presence part like go together hand in hand, and the fun happens in the presence. So what I was not doing, I was not listening to my inner child, who did not want to prepare for this public speaking speech. And like maybe a part of me really want to grow and become a good public speaker, but that part is like still not paying it, still in the feeling that it's a lot of discomfort to prepare for public speaking speeches, also maybe write speeches. So it is like a uncomfortable area for a part of me. And I was like, I think I really have to listen to this part. And I did that. And how I did is just by listening to it, and part of me was like, we're not going to do it. And I was like, okay, let's not do it. I didn't do it in that moment. And that really helped. But because I want to grow and also want to become a good public speaker, I eventually ended up working on my speech. So to summarize, the 3 P's of getting rid of overwhelm or break out of overwhelm is prioritization, presence, and playfulness. And we have to find the right balance of all these three ideas. Back to you, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you so much, Parvinder. I love that idea of the 3 Ps. I will definitely be thinking about that when I am feeling a little bit overwhelmed. Maybe with something at work, I'll have to remember those 3 Ps of prioritization, presence, being present, and playfulness. Love that. Wonderful. All right. So before we move into our next segment of the meeting, I would like to call on our timer to give us a timer's report for our 2 speeches. So I will go ahead and turn it over to our timer, Toastmaster Jenny.
Thank you, Vanessa. For the timer's report for David Jones, he came in at 5 minutes and 53 seconds, so he qualifies. And for Parvinder, came in at 7 minutes and 20 seconds, so just a little bit over the allotted time. I'll hand it back over to you, Vanessa.
Thanks, Jenny. Appreciate that. And I believe 7 minutes and 30 seconds is the drop dead time. So Parvinder still qualifies. And David, if you are still serving as the ballot counter, is that okay? I realized I may have forgotten to introduce you as our ballot counter for the evening. Wearing a lot of hats tonight, so.
Actually,
But feel free to write down helpful notes to our speakers, and if you're on Zoom, you're welcome to use the chat box to send feedback to the speakers. And David will collect the ballots in person for a speaker. And also for our next segment, the other part we'll be voting on is our table topics, which is an opportunity for anyone, including those who are guests or those who don't have a speech tonight, to practice their speaking with a 1 to 2 minute impromptu speech. So for that, I will turn it over to our table topics master, Bailey.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. Greeting fellow Toastmasters and guests. Like Vanessa alluded to, I have a few questions, and I was going to see if I have any volunteers who would like to participate.
We have quite a few here. We'll start with Joel. Yeah, Joel. You guys got to come up here and do it.
Hi, Joel. So
Hey.
What was your favorite subject in school and why?
I had 2 favorite subjects in school. My first one was math. My second one was chemistry. It's a big reason why I chose my field of study, chemical engineering, which I still do today. I'm currently working for Sure Tape Technologies, and we make duct tape at the plant I work at, including the world's strongest duct tape. I also stink pretty bad from it coming in here. Rubber and resin combined together smell really bad, but I still enjoy what I do. It's a hands-on type of job. And in spite of it being a 1-hour drive, I still make the drive and whatnot. I always like combining those two together. I never knew while growing up chemical engineering existed. I always heard of either like electrical, civil, or mechanical. And then I was like, that would be cool if there was one where you'd combine these two. And then I learned about it and chose that major. Thank you.
Thank you, Joel. All
We have
right.
one more if you're.
Okay.
All right, we have Daniel, our newest member.
Hi, Daniel. So my question for you today is, did you have a favorite teacher during your school years and how did they inspire you?
Yes. So actually, my favorite teacher, she was an art teacher. It was back in high school. And every time I came to this class, it felt like, I felt amazing. I don't know why, but just the whole atmosphere, like the paintings in the room and the music she was turning on. So she was one of my favorite teachers. I don't remember her name, to be honest, but I remember it was really exciting to paint and I really loved it. And right now I should be painting more, but I don't have much time because of work. So, but it's something that brings me peace and feels good to paint. So thank you very much. Back to you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Daniel. Do we have time for one more?
Yes, we have time for one or two more. And I know Andrea here on Zoom had her hand raised. Andrea.
I'm here.
All right, Andrea. So can you describe what your first day of school was like?
Hey, I'm cheating. So my first day of school was always exciting. I always looked forward to meeting my new teachers and getting to know who was in my class, because each class, right, you look for your friends, your best friend, and you greet them, which I feel so bad for our children now because they can't grab. I remember seeing my best friend and running across the yard. That's just not what we do anymore. So that sense of community and connectivity was always what first day of school meant to me, that I got to go back to my best friends.
All right. Thanks, Andrea. Appreciate it.
We have time for one more.
More? Okay. I guess along the lines of subjects, I guess I should find out who would like to volunteer first. Krista? All right. Krista, so in terms of subjects, what was your favorite or what was your least favorite subject and why?
Thank you for the question. My favorite subject in school has always been art. Now, technically, you don't really have art as you get older, but I'll go back to being in elementary school where you did start utilizing crayons, color pencils, and different mediums to draw and reimagine. So as an only child, I think I've always been imaginative. So being able to utilize paper and create things, or whether it was tissue paper and tulle, or drawing your hands for Thanksgiving, anything that was touching and feeling, but gave kind of your imagination something to be outside of yourself. As I've gotten older, it's still evolved in terms of journaling or writing poems or being interested in that type of literature and doing scrapbooking at some point in my life. So I've evolved to always continue to do art. Now, the least favorite subject, I will say, is history. Unfortunately, it's probably the most important. As I've gotten older, I wish that I was more engaged with history to understand clearly where we've come from, because that is where we're going, and to make sure we do not repeat history. So important, whether it's politics within your own family, your mental health, it's great to know history and how to move forward. Overall, those are my least and my most favorite subjects, art and history, though, again, history is now becoming something that I enjoy.
Thanks, Krista. Too bad they didn't have an art history class during the time. Might have been a little more interesting. But that's really all the questions I had today. I guess we can move it over to Jenny for a timers report.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. For the timers report for the table topics, Joel came in at 1 minute and 16 seconds. Daniel came in at 50 seconds. Andrea came in at 38 seconds. And Krista at 1 minute and 39 seconds. That's the times. Thank you.
Thank you, Jenny. And I will move it on over back to our Toastmaster of the night, Vanessa.
Thank you, Bailey. And I love how you chose table topics questions that were so in line with the theme of back to school. And yet each one was very unique. That's definitely an art to coming up with table topics that I still have to work on myself, but you did an excellent job. And to bring us into the third and final segment of our meeting, the evaluation portion, I'd like to turn it over to our general evaluator, who will provide some general feedback on the meeting and also introduce our speech evaluators. And that is going to be also our grammarian, Toastmaster Natalie. So thank you, Natalie, for filling in this role as well.
Thank you, Vanessa. Good evening, everyone. Once again, it's a pleasure to serve both roles and get to practice being general evaluator this evening as well as grammarian. I probably should have had a wardrobe change. I will plan ahead next time. I would like to begin with the evaluations for the evening. We had 2 great speakers, and our first evaluation this evening will be by Elvis Lopez, who is evaluating David. Please join me in welcoming Elvis.
Good evening, fellow Toastmasters and honored guests. I just made it on time. Thank you, David, for another great speech. I would start by talking about your introduction and your speech structure. So I will be a little bit technical tonight, since you are a more advanced Toastmaster. So starting with your structure, you had a very powerful introduction. You started talking about the rules, your rules, and something that you would like everybody to actually follow, which would make everybody's life funnier. So it was very powerful in a sense that it helped me actually gauge what the content of the speech was going to be. So I think that was a very, very powerful introduction and kept me engaged and following through what you were going to deliver as part of the content of your speech. So looking at your content, then you started looking at, or basically taking a storytelling approach. And I would say you are a very good storyteller. I would relate to each one of those stories. You are very, very funny. And one of the things that I would say, actually, as part of the storytelling style, there are certain things such as conveying the emotions. So, for example, when you were saying, and it was very funny, well, it would have helped if you would use some of your emotion, your face expressions when you were actually referring to something being very, very funny. So that was one of the things that I would challenge you also for next time when you are conveying those type of emotions, and be more expressive in that sense. So I think you actually split the content into the different parts. One of them was your first example about making life easier for everybody. And that example was a very good one. I'm the one who prefer to carry on my luggage all the time because of security and those type of stuff. But it's a very good point that you brought in, and actually is something that is very, very relatable. So in that sense, I would say your speech was really, really, it flowed really very natural. It was like you was speaking to us. So it felt like it just went over. And at the end, I felt like, I wanted more. So in that regard, another suggestion for improvement would be when you were doing the introduction, that maybe kind of state the number of examples that you're going to bring, or I'm going to give you 2 examples of this, or 2 of my rules are the ones that are going to be discussing. I might probably have many, but I'm going to give you 2. So by that time, I don't feel like I'm wanting more, because you mentioned that there were going to be 2, or they're going to be 3. So now I know that it's going to be time for wrapping up, and then the conclusion is coming. So that would set the stage for the final portion. And I think you made also a very good summary of the rules and everything at the end. But also, I think it would be even more powerful if you would also finish with a call to action. So those will be my challenges, and I look forward to hearing another great speech from you. Back to you, Madam General Evaluator.
Well, thank you for that very thoughtful and detailed speech. I agree with your assessment. David always does such a wonderful job making us laugh, although I too am also a fan of carry-on luggage. So I'm with Elvis on that, because I do not want to lose any of my items. It's trust issues on my part. Our second evaluation this evening will be for Parvinder, and in the spirit of multitasking, our Toastmaster Vanessa will be his evaluator.
Thanks,
Please.
Natalie. All right, Parvinder, excellent job with your speech tonight. I did, like Elvis, notice some excellent things you did in terms of structuring your speech. And that's always something that evaluators love to focus on, because a good speech structure can really make or break whether the audience retains information. But I loved how you opened with something really relatable. You asked the audience a question, you got some responses, and you talked just generally about your experience with the feeling of overwhelm. And it's a topic that a lot of us can relate to. A lot of us have come into Toastmasters maybe feeling a bit overwhelmed with the idea of giving a speech. And so by relating to the audience so well in your introduction, you got us hooked, and we were committed to listening to the rest of your speech. But you didn't stop with just preliminary introductory information. You went on and gave us 3 distinct ways that you can overcome that feeling of being overwhelmed. And I loved how you chose 3 ways, because typically 3 different topics is a great way to structure a speech. I think it's often called the rule of 3, because people find it easy to retain 3 different pieces of information. And those ideas you shared were substantial. And I don't know if you did research to come up with those 3, the prioritize, presence, and playfulness, but they were really fascinating. And sometimes when we're in a hurry to come up with a speech, we maybe skimp a bit on the research. I know I'm a little guilty of this, but whether you came up with them out of your creative thought or you did some research, it just came across as something that was really well thought out. It was substantial, interesting ideas that we were eager to hear about more. The one thing on structure you could challenge yourself on a bit is your conclusion. it seemed as though maybe you were a little bit short on time as you got towards the end of your speech. And so you had to wrap up pretty fast. But I think one thing to keep in mind for a future speech would be if you can throw in a way to tie it back to your original introduction. Maybe it's a funny story, maybe it's some other idea, or like Elvis mentioned, a call to action is a great way to conclude a speech. But that's something you can think about for future speeches. One other topic as an evaluator that I like to think about is style and delivery and technique. And one thing I loved about your speaking style tonight is your use of different pitch. You didn't just stay as a monotone like this the whole time, which can make people lose interest, but you use different types of pitches. Sometimes you go a little bit lower and sometimes higher, and it kept it really conversational. So we were paying attention to where your voice was going as you told your story about Overwhelm, and you kept that audience engaged. One thing you can work on in terms of style is pacing. And we all struggle with this. I know I do, but rushing too much when we have a lot of ideas to get through. Sometimes slowing down can be really effective, and people pay attention really closely when you're speaking a little more slowly. So something to think about in the future, but overall, excellent job. I really enjoyed your speech, and I still look forward to your next one. And I'll turn it back over to Natalie.
Thank you, Vanessa. I agree with your assessment, and I always learn so much in hearing the evaluations from our evaluators. I know I also have to practice pacing, and so I'm taking notes and learning from each of you as speakers and evaluators. So I appreciate you both. With that said, I would like to invite Jenny back up for a timers report.
Thank you, Natalie. And I've now realized that my head has been cut off on the Zoom the whole time. Sorry about that, I'm too short. For the evaluators timers report for Elvis, he came in at 4 minutes and 10 seconds. And for Vanessa, 3 minutes and 24 seconds. That, hand it back over to you. Thank you.
Thank you. And David, if you are collecting ballots, I believe both of those are over time, so no one qualifies this evening.
Vanessa did because there's a 30-minute grace period.
Okay.
So,
Okay,
by default.
noted. Well, I'm going to hand it over to myself now for both the grammarians portion and the general evaluation. I will combine those since I'm serving both roles this evening, and I will start with the grammarians report. Generally, everyone was very clean in their speech. I would say the most popular were so's, which I am guilty of as well. So's, us, and ums, but there was very light usage, and I'd say that's consistent across the board. So I'm not going to call anyone out specifically, but just be mindful of that. Also, because my brain was multitasking and writing notes and evaluating the meeting, I also apologize, but I didn't hear the word of the evening. So if you shared it, would you mind raising your hand so we can just give you a shout out? It was learning was the word of the night. Parvinder, Vanessa. Thank you. Anyone in the room? I'm like, I see pointing, but I can't tell who it is. So thank you to those that used it. And I apologize because my brain was split. And although I consider myself a good multitasker, that's hard to listen intently for the filler words, the word of the night, and evaluate. So new challenge for me, and I welcome it. I wanted to start the evaluation by just saying thank you to everyone for coming out this evening. Good attendance on Zoom and also in the room. I see quite a bit of people, and I know Andrea mentioned that she appreciates the hybrid model. I know I do too. Last week I was able to make it out in person, and this week I also had to join on Zoom. So this model seems to be working well, and a special shout out to David, who I know wasn't feeling 100% as he shared, and he still was committed to getting out there and getting the AV set up so that we could have the hybrid functionality. So just thank you so much, David. Without you, we wouldn't be here, literally. The meeting started on time. Jamie, I enjoyed the fun fact that you shared and appreciate you filling in as Sergeant at Arms. I'm also a waffle lover, so I appreciated that fun fact. One of my favorite questions is waffles or pancakes. That lets me know who's on my team, but it's more about a syrup thing for me. I felt we had also a great turnout of guests this evening. We have 1 live in the room and 3 online. So just want to thank all of the guests for coming out, and we hope you will keep coming back and consider becoming members, which I know David and the team will share a little bit more about at the end. I want to encourage everyone. I know we have some new members to step into roles. When you're joining, it can feel a bit intimidating to take on a role for the first time, but the best way to learn is to just dive in. I had the opportunity to multitask on a role, so I feel like that's a great challenge because it allows me to learn, but everybody should participate. So please take on a role. And one thing that we are continuing to work on is to step into the role sooner so that we're not having to fill slots at the last hour. On site, there was a bit of a mic issue at the beginning, but we resolved it quickly. And I would just say that when we're introducing guests, if it's possible, I know sometimes social distancing may limit what we're able to do, but to have them come up to the podium so that everyone can see them. Otherwise, it's hard to tell who they are or even hear their name on Zoom. I also really love that the guests jumped at the chance to participate. I know Andrea answered a few questions today, which takes a lot of courage. So thanks for stepping up. And I know our new member, Daniel, also jumped in and participated in table topics. Overall, I think it was a great meeting. I learned a lot from everyone as usual, very thorough evaluations, great speeches. Thank you all so much. And with that, I will turn it over to Vanessa.
Thank you so much, Natalie, not only for doing an excellent job as our grammarian, but also filling in as a double role and also doing general evaluator, which is no small task. So I really thank you for your flexibility and giving us a good example of how to do that very well. So thank you. And at this point, we are wrapping up. And I will go ahead and first ask our ballot counter for the winners of the various little contests, if you will, of the evening. So David, I'll turn it over to you.
I actually didn't do ballot counting tonight, but I've got a plan. So for the table topics, we're going to start, of course, because I have to kiss up to Krista, our area director. So she won the Zoom table topics. But we also have a table topics in person, which goes to Joel. So Joel, in person. Thanks, sir. Wave to everybody. No, I don't know. And then also, we had a second table topics person, our newest member, Daniel. Daniel, we have a welcome. Well, I didn't give you one of these yet, did you? Get a new one. This is the welcome to the club. So you get one of those. Thank you. Best evaluator by default goes to Vanessa. So congratulations. Elvis always goes over so he doesn't win, and he has a lot to share with us. So I always appreciate that. So it's not a negative that he goes over when he's giving an evaluation. It's an important part of the club. And of course, our best speaker goes to Parvinder. So congratulations, Parvinder. And back to you, Vanessa.
Thanks, David. And before we close out, I did want to also give a special thank you to Krista Newkirk, our Area 23 Director, for joining us this evening on Zoom. And it's always nice to see our area directors, and they have several different clubs to go around to. So Krista, I appreciate that you made some time for Queen City Toastmasters, and we'll always be happy to see you if you want to drop in and share a table topics or just chat before the meeting. So thanks again for coming. Nice to meet you, at least electronically over Zoom. And with that, I think I will go ahead and turn it over to our presiding officer to close out the meeting.
Thank you, Vanessa. It was a great Toastmaster of the night. Appreciate it. And Chris, in case you didn't know, Vanessa is our immediate past president. So I'm here because of her standing on each other's shoulders as we go along. And I wanted to, I guess you got called out. It's Caleb, right? I said it right this time. Do you want to come up and because nobody heard you, evidently. So Caleb is our person, and basically reintroduce yourself and just what do you think about the meeting tonight?
Hey everyone, so I'm Caleb Weaver. I'm a senior at UNC Charlotte studying risk management and insurance. I just finished up an internship over at Gallagher Insurance, and I was encouraged to come attend the Toastmasters because my manager's brother had done it and he thought it was very beneficial. And the meeting tonight, I thought it was very interesting. I've never been a part of something like this, only like communication classes in school, and those are completely different from this. So I found it very interesting, and I'm definitely going to be coming back. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Appreciate it. And then also our guest, Andrea, I think you said you were been here before, but what do you think about tonight's meeting?
I was here last week and to hear the podcast, and I enjoyed the way you guys evaluated that. And it wasn't just about the content, but it was, I mean, not about the time and all of that stuff. It was more about the content, and that impressed me a lot. So that's why I came back.
Okay, perfect. Thank you much for coming back. And Tamika, any thoughts about tonight's meeting? No. Looks like SpongeBob painted his house. I'm not sure it's pink. So, and Krista, any closing thoughts from you? You got to observe our meeting, and I don't know if this is your first hybrid meeting or not, but
It's my second. My own club has done a hybrid meeting, but there's still some tips to grab for me, or some additional learning, to use the word of the day, always when it comes to hybrid. But great meeting, great energy, participation, of course. I just want to, applaud all the work that you're doing. I know this club is a rock star within our area, continuing to achieve its goals. And I encourage, if you have, gone along on your path, or I know you have a couple of CCs and CLs in the legacy, make sure that you're moving to the next step and, raising your hand for leadership, whether it's at the club level or thinking about serving as an area director and beyond in the future. So pay attention to the emails that are coming out. Participate in the international convention if you've not already registered for this week, and reach out to myself or your officers to stay engaged. I think I'll sum it up with that. Oh, I do have one more highlight. We are pushing the Region 7. So we're a part of Region 7 within Districts 37 as well. Is having an event this Saturday at 6:30. If you do have a capacity, register. The information is on the website, the district website on the calendar. It's really emphasizing the future's so bright, we have to wear shades. So you'll be encouraged to wear sunglasses and welcome the new district, or the new leadership for Region 7. I'm escaping the words at the moment, but great meeting again, and I will definitely be back.
thank you. And Elvis is our VP of Education, and we found out it's a really hard position. It's probably the hardest position there is, but he's getting everybody through the pathways. And as you can see through the numbers, we're doing really good. So I appreciate all that Elvis does too. And then Natalie and I, she's been working on next week's meeting. It's going to be basically a social hour. We'll probably have pizzas and drinks here. It's a church, so they're going to be regular drinks. And so I welcome everybody to come out here in person. And I'm going to make some phone calls and try to do a Legends of Queen City. So if we can get a few previous members who are great speakers, we'll have them here too. But it's just something a little different. And so hopefully everybody will come and to socialize and have fun, but we'll also have it on Zoom for those who can't come. Are there any other officer announcements? No? Okay. With that, we'll call it a meeting. We went a couple minutes over, but it was a great meeting, and hopefully we'll see you all next week. So thanks, Vanessa. Appreciate it. Thanks, Elvis.
So
Appreciate the feedback.
Sure. I almost didn't make it.
Yeah.
I was
You're
driving
cutting
back
short.
home and I was connected on my phone and then just got here just by the time they called my name.
Yeah.
So just made it on the right time. But great speech. You always,
Yep. All
giving
right.
us very good content and
Yeah, I was a little, I don't know if you heard the
Yeah.
beginning, I got my second COVID shot yesterday. So today I'm kind of loopy. So I kind of started going during my speech, but I'm feeling a lot better. Did you get your shots or?
I didn't get that from you from the beginning, but yes, I got mine a long time back in April. I got the
Sorry.
I got the Johnson and Johnson, which was only one before they
Gotcha.
removed it.
Perfect.
But that was back in April, so I haven't
Okay.
had the.
Yeah, the Moderna, everybody I've talked to, your second shot, you get wiped out, and I was wiped out. And then today, Natalie's like, "Did you try your Advil?" And I was like, "Oh, I forgot about Advil." So I took the Advil, and I'm 100% better. So it's just a little simple things in life. So.
Oh wow.
All right. Well, we're
I
gonna
hope
go.
you get better then.
Yep. All right, we're gonna go clean up and get out of here. So.
All right. Take care.
All right. Have a good night. Thanks.
All right. Good night.